Matt Mitragrosso here, creator of Xenoplicity and the Q system it runs on. Today's video, a really short video just on tabletop gaming and philosophy of the game. Just talking about ways to run the game and what works and what doesn't. In my last game night that we had on Friday, we were playing a Call of Cthulhu adventure. It's a scenario. It's called The Lightless Beacon. It's pretty good. I really enjoyed it. And I was running the session for my players, for my table of players. And in this particular scenario, I'm not going to go into the specifics too much because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who might be interested in playing that. But the idea is that the player characters wash up on shore of an island. They need to basically survive, uncover whatever mystery is there. And there are threats that can pose a danger to the player characters. I know I'm trying to be vague and non-specific because I don't want to ruin it or spoil it. But the idea is that there are certain parts in the adventure where there's combat or that there's a real good chance of it. And so my players, they were being very creative. The role play was going on great. They were being very creative. They were using like really great strategy. They were being very, thinking outside the box and how to tackle the different situations and the different investigative aspects of the adventure. And to the point where they managed to actually sidestep and avoid all the combat scenarios that are in this particular adventure. And here's the point. This is what kind of was why I'm making this video. There is a danger that I think game masters will often, that they can fall victim to, where if a module calls for a fight, there is a danger that the game master thinks a fight has to happen. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. You need to be creative and free-flowing enough at the table as your players interact with each other and interact with the setting that you've presented them, that you don't force them down one particular path. It is important that players have the freedom to make creative decisions at the table, that they're able to tackle problems any way they want. Now, you have to bring the consequences to this, that, or the other. And a lot of times players will start thinking that something's a good idea and maybe there's like some really dire consequences that will come from when they do that. But that's fine. Let them do that. Let them suffer those consequences. In this particular case, the players being able to sidestep the combat meant that this scenario actually was a lot shorter than what it otherwise could have been. The actual scenario says that you can do it in an hour. I think that's a little unrealistic for sure. I think you'd have to be like rushing the players through making actions and not letting them role play if you were to do this adventure in an hour with any sizable group. That's my opinion. That's my experience. But still, I would say there's a good 3 to 4 hours worth of content in this scenario if you've got players that role play and that are enjoying it and having fun with it. And my players, they were able to basically solve the mystery and avoid the conflict. And so some of that time that would have been allotted to combat and fights didn't happen. And so the adventure actually played out a lot quicker than it otherwise would have. Now, here's my point. That is the negative consequence of them sidestepping the combat, is that maybe the session you run that particular night is actually quicker and shorter than it otherwise would be. That's a negative consequence because then, you end up with maybe, wrapping up 30 minutes or an hour sooner than what you thought. And so, you might think, well, that's a drag. It's not. That's a good thing. It gives you time to talk and socialize with your friends or play something else like a short little board game or card game or whatever you and your group do. But here's the point. Just because a module or an outline, whether you've created it yourself or purchased one, no matter what it says, don't feel like you have to stick 100% to that. You're expected, really you should, change it up and tweak it as the adventure plays out, whatever it is, to make sure that it's working in concordance with what the players are doing at the table, right? My players found a really creative, really fun way to appease the threat and to avoid conflict. Now, if I was being a rigid game master, I could have just said, no, forget that. It's not going to work, and just thrown the enemies at the PCs. I could have just made a conflict spark and happen, and playing out those fights could have been fun. It could have been deadly. It could have added to drama and tension at the table. But at the end of the day, that would mean that all the players' choices and the clever ideas that they had come up with and all the things they had thought of, that none of that really would have mattered, because at the end conclusion would have been the same. It's going to be a fight, right? I don't like to do that as a game master. As a game master, on the contrary, if my players come up with a creative, fun way to avoid conflict and to solve the mystery, or get the problem solved in whatever way, whatever is presented to them in the adventure or module that you happen to be playing for whatever game it is. If your players come up with a way of solving it or addressing it, and it's just different than what you think was, what you thought was going to happen, or that what the module was calling for, run with it. It's okay, right? Maybe they don't fight the big bad guy, right? Maybe they don't fight at all. Maybe it's a total session of, RP and social dialogue. There's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, in my experience, I find that players have a better time when they walk out of a session and realize, wow, we really had this conclusion that we had no idea would work. And then when they talk to their other friends, if they have any friends that have also played that module, and they start sharing accounts of how their adventure went versus the other groups, they're going to be wildly different. And this sparks like a creative, fun conversation between players, even those that have played the same module, to have very different outcomes that you're like, wow, your group did that? Wow, let me tell you what happened with my group. And so you can have that, right? But if every conversation you had about a specific module, it only went one way, how boring would that be? And I think sometimes directors, game masters, they get this idea in their head that everything needs to be uniform. It doesn't. It doesn't. As a game master, you have to get comfortable with improv. You have to get comfortable with improvising at the table, with incorporating players' choices into whatever the outline includes. And it is okay to not know how it's going to turn out. You actually, that's preferred. But even if a module does lay out clearly, like maybe these are the 2 conclusions or these are the 3 conclusions, those you as a game master, when you're reading that module, you need to be considering that those are just maybe the most likely conclusions that game author, that module author has thought of. That doesn't mean that's how it's going to go in your group. And if you try to force that solution onto a group that has done things in a very different way, that maybe the author had not thought of, it's going to feel awkward, it's going to feel forced, and it's not going to feel genuine. You're gonna break immersion. So I encourage you not to do that. Instead of trying to force a square through a round hole, okay, don't do that. Just run with it and improvise, and you'll come up with something that is far superior, right? My players loved the session, and it didn't have any combat whatsoever in it. And again, that's that's not what that module looks like on paper. Because there is conflict, there is combat that's supposed to happen, but my players found a way around it, and I think that is awesome. And as it plays, it starts to morph and take this life on of its own, and this story is being told through emergent storytelling as the player choice, and the good dice results that they got, and the clever thinking that they used, and the good interactions with the different players at the table, and all the social dialogue that happened. All of that comes together, and you get this unique, interesting, fun ending to the scenario that the author had no idea. There's no way they could have predicted that that's the way it would go. And so I guess that's what I'm trying to say. This is a good example of how the right way to game master is. Don't be rigid. Don't feel like you have to force them down one particular path. Set the stage, set the setting, present them with all the things out there that you want them to have in their mind's eye, as far as what they're being presented with for that night of gameplay, and then let them have fun with it. Let them tackle that and interact with it however they deem best. And so again, you just get these moments in the game where the game takes a life of its own. It comes to life, and it's so much more than anything you could have predicted. And that is the right way to gameplay. That is the right mentality to have as a game master. And I just think that's so important because so much of this gets lost as more people kind of rely on modules. Nothing wrong with modules. I love modules. I like to get modules, and even if I don't use them 100% as written, I will take from modules what I think makes sense and apply it in various ways. And your table is going to benefit from you being flexible as a game master. Again, the module at best is any module is going to be at best an outline. It is not the rule of law. Too often game masters feel that if they pick up a module, they need to stick with what the module says. And that's just not true. That's just not true at all. The game is what you make it. And I mean everyone at the table, the game master and what they present, and then the players with how they interact with it. That together forms your story, what's going to come out of that game night, right? And it's emergent storytelling. That's the key to good role playing. So anyway, guys, hope that was helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below.